All right, here we go. This workshop is assuming that you already have a working knowledge of how you need to create an opportunity and then proceed through the transaction. So again, you will have already created a contact for your client, and you will have already created the opportunity or sales pipeline, as we also refer to it, for the transaction. And you will probably be in the active phase when you first either upload your buyer broker agreement, if you have one, because you're then searching for properties with a client, or your listing agreement has been signed and maybe you're then moving on to the listing prep phase active. So you already have your opportunity, and you can come here and just click inside your opportunity by clicking the blue text. And then the next step is to go to the document section here to get, actually, sorry, I got a little ahead of myself. You do want to make sure that you have all the general information for the transaction filled out, everything that as much information as possible. You will already have some from creating the opportunity, like the contact, if there's a co-seller, excuse me, the time frame, estimated close date. You can put these additional dates in here too: appointment schedule, appointment date, agreement 1, contract date, and close date. So you actually are required, excuse me, to put in the contract date and the close date. So when you have those dates, when you get into contract, you want to make sure that's accurate, and you want to make sure the close date is accurate as well. Estimated listing price. For a buyer, if this is a buyer opportunity, it's going to have their budgeted amount. Commission rate, and this is only for your side of the transaction, and it will calculate out the approximate commission. And on the right side, if it's a listing, you will know that property address immediately. So go ahead and fill this out. When you're doing this, I just want to give you a tip here. Only type in address line 1. It will automatically fill in the country for you. And then after you find that address, it does cross-reference the address you type in with addresses on Google Maps. So Google Maps, by the way, does not include unit numbers. So please do not type the unit number into line 1. Find the address, the street number on line 1, and then you'll be able to type in the unit number into line 2. It should automatically recognize San Francisco, California, and the zip code as well. And then you can save. And of course, if it's in another city, whatever, it's going to auto adjust to the address you selected in line 1 that you found on Google. If it's a buyer, now you're not going to have that information until you have an offer that's been accepted on a property. And at that point, then you can update that address field. Seller worksheet. This is additional information. If you have the other side of the transaction, what their commission will be, go ahead and put that in. If you have any of this other information as well. Description. Now, if you have a third client on the transaction, there's actually not a place to put more than 2 clients' names over here on the left. So if you have a third client, you will want to note that in the description. Anything else that's important about the transaction that you might need to remember, or the file reviewer might need to know, like if it's a trust or probate sale, if it is a BMR, anything like that, you want to put in the description. Next, I'm going to go to documents. Seller profile just tells you if they're using the consumer platform and if they're using the guide. And that would be the consumer app where they would search for properties, or your KW agent website, which is probably yourname.kw.com. If they've created an account on there, if they're using the guides to move through the steps of the transaction, you can see that here. Documents. This is where we really get into the weeds here. This is where you will select your document checklist type, which it will actually prompt you right here. It will say there, select document checklist. I've already selected one. So this is the list that I'm being shown for, I think, KW San Francisco. Every office has its own list. And what list you see here is determined by whether it is a listing or a buyer or a landlord. So on your opportunity, when you're creating it, you make a selection for what type of transaction. And then you will see only the checklist for example, a listing here. I'm not seeing any buyer checklist. I'm not seeing any landlord checklist. So please make sure you make the correct selection when you're creating the opportunity. If you make the wrong selection, whether it's just by mistake, you're clicking too quickly, you will have to actually archive that opportunity and create a new one. There is no way to edit that after the opportunity is created. So select your checklist here, and then you'll notice there are 3 sections here. For a buyer and a landlord, these 3 sections are a little different, actually just the first section, I think. And then for a buyer, it says something different here. I think it says contracts. So if you have that buyer broker agreement, you would upload it to that section. It's not required, but if you have it. And then you will see under contract and closed for a buyer opportunity. For a landlord, I believe it's just a little bit different. I think instead of under contract, it just says pending or something like that. So make sure you check all 3 sections to see what documents are required in the center section. So 3 sections to click into. You will also be submitting each of these sections to the Market Center for approval once you have those documents uploaded. So again, each section, once completed, you're going to submit to your Market Center. One thing to note here is when you have a listing agreement signed, or you have a buyer you have a ratified offer for, you must submit those to this section and click submit to MC within 72 hours of them being signed. And that is a compliance rule. Okay, so it's not a Keller Williams thing. That's not a KW command thing. That is compliance. So in case you didn't know that already, you should be doing that in a timely manner so that we can catch any mistakes, or the broker has an opportunity to reject those documents if you have made a mistake. So just want to remind you all of that. In this section in the middle, here are the document names right underneath document. You can see the document type, agreement, disclosure, addendum, requirement. This will say whether it is absolutely required, conditional if applicable, optional, and you might see a note next to these, which might give it some clarification. You may not. Status, this is telling me whether I've uploaded it or not, or submitted, returned, approved. Okay, so those are the different statuses that we could have. So a returned status might mean it was not accepted or rejected, but just that it was not approved. So if you had submitted this whole section and something says returned, that means you need to look at it. If it's been rejected, you need to take a look at it. Approved will be green. Green, 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 green means you're fine. So for each document, you'll get a status, and you'll also receive a status back for the entire section here, and it'll show up right next to the listed section as either approved, rejected, or returned. So you want to take a look at that. Also, the file reviewer can add a comment to the listed section under contract section or to a single document. and you'll see a symbol similar to this one that says add comment. So the little kind of like you see in a comic book, it's like a word bubble. You will see that symbol if there is a message, and they'll write you a note maybe for why something was rejected or if something else is needed. You want to make sure you click on those to check what the message is. And then if you need a message back, the only way to do that is to click this add comment button and then type in the @ symbol, and you can type to your file reviewer. So for KWSF, our file reviewer is Bella Watson. For KW Peninsula Estates, it's Paulette Johns. And I'm not sure about who it is for the Santa Monica or Oakland offices, but you guys probably know who's your file reviewer. And if you don't know, if you click this @ symbol, it only pulls up your administrators in your market center. So these are the only people who have access for compliance that are showing up here. Those are the only people I can @message. And this will tag them, and this will ensure that they get a notification of your message. And the notification will come through on this bell symbol for them. So again, if you want to message them, let's say an example would be something is required, but you don't have it. You can Bella So maybe I waited too long and I couldn't get something signed for my listing by the buyer, that they refused to sign something because we're after the close of escrow. You don't want to get into that situation. Your file might not get approved and you might need conditional approval to get paid. So if they just won't sign though, maybe that's my reason, and hopefully it's a minor document for me, but again, that's like really not good. So hopefully you guys don't have that issue, but just using that as an example. All right, and how do you upload documents, right? Well, there's a couple ways to upload documents here. If you have the documents on your computer, you can upload them from your computer. You just click the add a file next to the document you want to upload, and manual is defaulting, and you can click browse your files. And you can select from your files here. There's also a way to attach multiple files at once. It says drag and drop or browse your files. So I can do one, I can do another one. I'm not actually attaching anything. But I would say do not do more than 10 at a time. I would say just chunk it out. Notice here, you can also pull items in from Docusign. This is because I had started a Docusign room for this transaction, and I had uploaded items to that Docusign room. So if you're not using our special KW Docusign accounts and you never started a room for your transaction, you're not going to see Docusign as an option at the top. So if you're using a paid Docusign account outside of Keller Williams, you're not going to be able to connect it here. You're not going to be able to use this function. So then I can select documents from the Docusign room. I don't have any in the room, but this makes it easy, and it helps me avoid having to download items to my computer and then upload that. And now you're probably wondering, well, how do I start a room? How do I get to my special KW Docusign room? So when we onboard you, we have Scott Leroy Marketing do all your tech setup for you. One of the things he sets up is that free KW Docusign account. And if you don't have it set up or you want to check on it and see whether it's connected, you can come to your name in the top right corner and go to the settings section. And then there will be it'll be right at the top if it's set up. It'll say Docusign. When you get into an opportunity and you get to the document section, in this top right corner where you see these two buttons, sync transaction and go to transaction, if you have not started the Docusign room yet, you'll see a button here that says start a transaction. When you click that button, it's going to prompt you to log into Docusign Rooms. And when you log in that time, it's going to start the room. So clicking the button here that appears saying start a transaction will start the transaction room in Docusign. That's what you're doing. After that, it's going to say sync transaction or go to transaction after you've already created that room and you come back here. By the way, sync transaction is not syncing the documents. It only syncs basic information like the opportunity name, the client information, and your information, and any other agents you've assigned to this opportunity. So just some basic information from the opportunity details get synced over into Docusign. That's all. Not the documents, nothing to do with the documents. Go to transaction is a way to get back into that room. So I'm going to click that. I'm going to get back into the Docusign transaction room by logging in. All right. And I did want to kind of debunk something that I hear sometimes, which is that you can only get into Docusign by going through the opportunity. You can actually just log into rooms.docusign.com and it'll take you to your rooms dashboard where you see all the rooms that you've already created. Again, the ones that you've already created. So you just need to go through opportunities to create the Docusign room initially for that transaction. And then you can be logging in, you know, rooms.docusign.com. A frequently asked question that I get is, do I still have the regular Docusign? You do. If you click your initials in the top right corner, you can switch to e-signature. You might be wondering, what's the difference? The difference is the room, think of it like a file folder for this transaction. If you have ever had more than one transaction going on at once and you use e-signature, you've already experienced how it's very messy to have that one single inbox and so many different things for different transactions getting sent and returned to the same spot. So this functions very similarly. I mean, it doesn't function, I'm not going to say the exact same way because there's actually additional bells and whistles for Docusign Rooms that e-signature doesn't have. And I'll tell you more about that. But the same things that you're used to using, like when you log into e-signature and you click to send for signing and it starts an envelope. So in your Docusign room, you can click on envelopes and you can start a new envelope to send for signing. And when it comes back with those signatures, it's going to come back into the room. So again, it's like a file folder, everything for this transaction just is in this one section. And it's also convenient because then when you are adding documents from the room, it only is going to filter for documents in that room, not your entire inbox of maybe multiple transactions and old transactions, etc. So it's just a cleaner way to do this Docusign thing for real estate. Hope that makes sense to everyone. All right, so a couple other things I want to mention about Docusign Rooms. You don't really need to fill out all of the details. It says something like required to close. Well, honestly, as long as the information is all in command, that's what's required to close, not what's in Docusign, okay? I want to talk about the people section. One of the most frequently asked questions that I get is agents on a team. If you want multiple team members to have access to what's in the Docusign room, maybe you have multiple team members that are involved with the transaction and need access to see the documents, to send documents for signing. You can now, and this is a recent new update, you can now add them to the people section. You do need to use the email address that they use with their KW Docusign account. Okay, I said that in a very specific way. It doesn't have to be their KW email address, but it has to be the email address on their special KW Docusign account. These are all in our network, and for compliance reasons, it'll only connect the special KW Docusign users. So if you have an external paid account, it's not gonna connect it here in the way that you need them to have access to. So let's say Wonka, she has a Gmail. And that is what she uses for her free DocuSign, I'm pretty sure. So I can add her as an agent owner. And then it'll give her, you can double check what permissions it gives here. But this is giving her permission to be able to do anything I can do in this room. So send things for signing, look at things that have already been sent. So if we're collaborating on this deal together, you can give access to any, not just anyone on your team, but any other agent that is in our KW office. Again, it's got to be the KW DocuSign account, but it's really nice to be able to have the ability to do that now. All right. So another thing I want to show is some of the bells and whistles here. So I'm going to actually add a document. Notice here, you have the ability to connect your zip form account. Okay, this is someone else's login here. Note that it's asking me for a zip form username and password. We use car.org to get to zip forms. This is not going to accept your car.org login. It only will accept a zip form login. So how do you get that? Well, you can go to car.org, go to zip forms, get into zip forms, go to your sign in and security under the settings in zip form through car. And then it's going to tell you your zip form username. Copy paste the username here. And then go to zipformplus.com. And you're going to click forgot password. Put your username in here. And then click next. It's going to email you or text you a code. And then allow you to create a new password. Important thing here, you are never going to log in at zipformplus.com. You're never going to log in here. We are only retrieving the password in this way to get it for the integration in Docusign, okay? You'll never log in at zipformplus.com. You're just doing that password route so you can get it for this integration. Okay. And then once you have this integrated, you can link this transaction room to a transaction you have in zip form. So you still want to log into car.org and use Zip Form Plus in car to send things for signing, because that is the easiest workflow, okay? You can plug your free KW DocuSign login into the zip form settings to use that through zip form as your e-signing tool of choice. So I think they use something called CoreLogix or something by default, but you can use DocuSign in the settings of your zip form account as your e-signing tool of choice. And that's just basically when your clients receive the documents via email, it's just coming from DocuSign and something they know probably a little bit more than ZipLogix or whatever the other thing is. So you can use that as your e-signing tool of choice through Zipform, but why use Zipform? Why is that the easiest workflow? When you're setting up the transaction in Zipforms, you set up the address, all the like commission information, your client information, and then it pre-populates those forms with that information. And when you start to send for signing, it's also going to pre-tag a lot of the fields for you. You should still be double checking those fields to make sure everything is tagged properly and correct. However, why would you bring it into Docusign if it's then going to take away those tagged fields and you're going to have to place them yourself for some of those documents? It makes more work for you to bring them into Docusign if you're going to have to drag the signature field over and do all that. In Zipform, again, it does it for you. So you can bring those documents into Docusign after they're signed. And basically, again, at that point, you are just avoiding downloading them onto your computer. Or I don't know, maybe you're sending to the buyer for signature. But again, you can do a lot of the signing through Zipforms, through CAR, and that's the easiest workflow. Something in here that you should know is that we have KW documents, special KW disclosures. Those are in a shared Google Drive folder that Gabby shares with you in her very initial onboarding email with helpful links. If you don't have that for your purchase, I know we have lots of offices on here. You will want to talk to whoever guides you through onboarding to get those documents. I also have them set up for KW Peninsula under, if I go to add and I go to DocuSign Forms, and here's the library for Market Center 917. But honestly, it's very difficult for me to update these. So I would, if you think anything here looks old, check in the shared Google Drive. Check in the shared Google Drive. And the reason I'm saying that is because I can't simply upload whatever I want to this folder. It's like a several week process to get any form in here or updated with DocuSign. I can't just upload whatever I want whenever I want. They upload these for me. So I put in here, I try and keep this, I put these in here, I try and keep them updated. But again, refer to the shared Google Drive. And if you're in another office, I'm sure you guys have a shared Google Drive if they're not in there. So other things in here, I'm going to go and add a few documents so I can show you the special features. We have some really special features in Rooms that are not available in eSignature, like the ability to combine documents, to split up documents like a disclosure package, and a couple other things. So let me find a great PDF for me to use here. All right, I'm just gonna do this random document. So I just uploaded something from my computer. Now I can click on this document. Oh, the preview is being built. But anyway, so it's supposed to give me a preview here. This one has a lot of images, so it's going to take a few minutes to load and to upload. But once you click on a document, in the top right corner, you have this document actions button, history, access. That's who has access to this in your people section. Document actions is what's going to give you some of the options here, the bells and whistles. Rename, edit, split, move, copy, email, fax, download, print, create envelope with it, archive, delete. All right, so you can archive and delete things, like what if you accidentally upload the same thing twice? You can archive if you're worried about deleting, or you can delete. You can move something out of this transaction room. You can copy something in this transaction room. You can edit the doc if it allows. Split will allow you to separate it into multiple documents and to title them other things at the same time. All right, let me see if this is refreshed now so I can show you how to split a document up. Okay, loading the document now. Okay. I'm going to test out for you split. All right, so I clicked split. And now I can see all the pages on the right-hand side. And on the left-hand side is where I can title what the first document is going to be and select what pages it's going to be. This is a buyer's guide. You know, if you're doing a disclosure package, the text is going to be a lot smaller on it. Simply put your cursor over that page, go towards the top, and you can zoom in on the text to see what the title of that page is if it's hard to read. So buyer guide, and then I'm going to do page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to add another one and then title this your home wish list. You can also type in the page range. So I'm going to type in 6 through 10 and then add another document. I'm going to title it, do pages 11 through 21. And then I'm going to click save in the top right. All right, here we go. And why do I have 4 things when I only split it up into 3 different things? It saved my original. So it keeps a separate copy of the original, and then I have 3 divided it up into. And I can select one thing and I can archive this or delete it if I want to. Oh, this is the one that's one of 5 though. So buyer guide original, this is the one I would want to archive. They can be unarchived at any time. So I don't want to delete, I just want to archive it. All right. And now it's just these 3 that show up. So what if I have documents and I want to combine them? Like ideally, I know that the buyer and seller would sign the same copy of a single document. However, sometimes we don't have that. And you need to combine them so that they go onto one checklist item. So how you can do that is when you hover over, this circle will appear in the top left corner. You can click that circle to select it, select a second, third, fourth, fifth item. And then on the top, some of these options come up, and that's where this combine tool comes up. You can also, there's a range of other tools you can use, like create an envelope. You can select them in this fashion and then click create envelope to send for signing. So here we're going to click combine. And it's going to combine them. Okay, great. So on Docusign, I don't get into like how to send documents for signing. We just typically don't have time for that in this class. I know I have only 12 minutes left. So now that we've gone over a lot of things in Docusign, I'm going to go ahead and divert back to, oh, actually a couple more things. Just 2 more things in here that are kind of important. Messages. We really don't use this tool, but you can use this to collaborate with your team. History. This will show every single thing that's been done in Docusign, who sent what for signing, And again, keep track of who is taking certain actions in this room, who is sending things for signing in this room, what is being returned is signed when. Inbox at the top. Okay, we don't really use this, but if you have something attached to an email and you want to get it into Docusign Rooms, you can email the attachment to this. This is your inbox email address for Docusign. Any document sent to this address will be added to your inbox. The documents, the attachments, the PDFs, the documents will be added here. So if you just want to quickly like forward an email with an attachment here, that attachment document will come into this inbox and you can bring it into a room. My Docs. I know some people use PRDS forms. I'm not that familiar with those, but I know that they work differently than CAR-zip forms. So if PRDS forms are forms that you used to prep and have signed through Docusign, you can add those documents that you use repeatedly here in this My Docs section. Let's see, I just have one. And you can create form templates. So save time by pre-filling a form you can apply each time you add it to a room. So you can use these to help streamline if you use something like PRDS that you need to set up in Docusign to send for signing. All right, and then that's it. So I'm gonna go back to command. So we learned how you can connect items with the checklist, but I didn't go over add item here. One of the most frequently asked questions is, can you upload 2 things to one checklist item? You can't. You can't do that. It's expected of you that you're going to get a single form signed by both parties, especially if that's something that's filled in. It should be signed by both parties, a single form. But I know it sometimes happens where you have the buyer sign one version, you have the seller sign it, separately. So if that's the case, I would recommend combining them in the Docusign room and then uploading them as a single checklist item, single file, single PDF, because you can't upload 2 PDFs, like for example, to the listing agreement, which you wouldn't do that with anyways, but wait, you get the gist. If you have miscellaneous items that you don't see on the checklist, you can use this add item button. And this essentially adds something onto the checklist. So you enter the document name here, enter the document type, add an additional note, maybe for why you're adding it. And then you can add it manually from the Docusign room or from like custom folders is a place where you can have things uploaded on the left. People don't typically use that. And that's how you can add a miscellaneous item onto the checklist. All right. So I know we're kind of crunched for time here. I think I got to everything that is in the transaction section. So next would be offers and commissions. This section, if it's a listing, you can program multiple offers in here in order to do an offer comparison and use this compare offers button. It's kind of a cool thing to give to your sellers. Let's see. It won't allow me. Okay. So how do you get an offer comparison? I have 3 offers programmed in here. How you program in an offer is you add new offer, create, you title it, you create it, offer date, close date, move on to parties. So for the buyer, you do have to put a name. And again, I'm the listing agent on this deal, so that seller information is in the representation, I'm the agent, is pre-populating from what I've entered into the transaction details. And then I need their associate's name, their agent. And then I can move forward to the terms. Okay, so cash amount and finance amount. I'm going to put, and my finance amount is going to be okay. Notice I typed in the cash amount, I typed in the finance amount, and the sales price calculated on its own. That's the only way it works. You can't do that backwards and type in the sales price first. So just so you know. Earnest amount. Usually that's 3%. And we don't normally use this other financial information in our state. So you can move forward to the agent analysis at the bottom. Pros and cons. If you're doing that offer comparison, you can write in your agent recommendations here, the pros and cons of this offer and a summary. You don't have to, this part is not required, but if you're doing an offer comparison, it might be nice to put these notes in for your client. Click save, and that offer has now been added to the list here. Now to get the offer comparison, I can select all or just a few of the offers that I want to compare. And in the top right now, that offer compare offers is no longer grayed out, and I will click that. So now it gives me this beautiful offer comparison with each offer laid out, plus the summary and the pros and the cons. I can download this and email it to my clients. This is what it looks like. Or I can email it from here. I would definitely test this out to make sure it goes through when you send it to yourself. Let's see if it's working. Actually, nothing's happening on my screen. Well, if this does not go through, what you can do is just download it and send as an attachment. And here's where you can preview that email message. Okay, actually that didn't work either. Nothing's coming up. Okay, so you can download and send. I'm gonna go back. All right. So now we are done with the offers and comparisons. I'm gonna go back to offers. Once your sellers have accepted an offer, or if it's a buyer, when their offer has been accepted, you wanna go ahead and mark that winning offer as accept. And now on that offer, this manage commissions button is available. In order to submit your commission request, move forward and click that button. Now, one thing I want to mention is that you don't have to do this right when the offer ratifies. If things may change, and they may, right? I don't know if you have contingent or non-contingent, but if it is a contingent offer, some things can change that sales price and your commission. So what you want to do is probably wait until about 1 to 2 weeks before the close of escrow or after all inspections have been completed to submit this. Does that make sense? So you do not want to wait until the day before closing to do this. We have to process this into a demand for you, and we might need a little time to do that, especially if you have changes after it's submitted. So at least 7 days before close. You want to edit this general information to put that contract date, make sure your close date are correct. Note that this is what permanently will get saved as the contract and close date on this transaction. So you want to make sure that's correct at the time you submit. Now, when I scroll down, you see that I am the agent on this transaction. I am the only agent on this transaction by default. I am on a team and I am supposed to share my deals with the Rainmaker though. So, you know, it's going to default to whoever agent account you're in as that first agent on the deal. And then you can add another agent to the transaction. So I'm going to add Gabby. Actually, I'm going to add Blanca since I'm in the KWSF office right now and Gabby's not in that office. So now some agents do not split the units. Some do if you're on a team. That is up to the Rainmaker how they want to do it. Let's just say that Blanca is my Rainmaker, but she's allowing me to have the full unit of credit. But I need to give her half of the commission. What I could do is type in 0.5 here and just use that to calculate out her commission. And then I can zero this out. That makes sense. It will allow me to do that. And then scroll down. And this is where I can add an item for like, let's say she's doing half of BRLG. I'm going to add a deduction. And the amount of BRLG is, let's see, 129 divided by 2 equals 6450. BRLG, BRLG, and you can put your office address here. Just make sure you put broker resource law group or BRLG here. And the phone number really doesn't matter, but it is required. So I'm just going to use my own. And then click add. You don't need their tax ID information either. Only anything with the red star next to it. All right. And you can also donate to KW Cares, KW Kids Can, Bold Scholarship, associate royalty, commissions, and all that. That is based on what your split is with the company in our system. And we can't change any of that information ourselves, right? Otherwise, everyone would probably change to 100%, right? So that information is not editable here, just the KW Cares stuff. If you need to add, like it's a buyer and you're throwing in home warranty, you can add that as another deduction. All right, I'm going to click Save Changes here. And then I still need to go into mine and edit agent payment. And I need to add BRLG in here. So I'm just going to do that one more time. Sorry, I know we're a little over on time here. Almost finished. All right. Now on the right-hand side, I can see that things aren't balancing out. I have this excess agent commission, 27,500. Why is that? So I did give Blanca half of my commission, but I never reduced my own. So I need to then go in and edit that and reduce my own commission. But let's just say I owe someone a referral fee first. You can add a referral in and it needs to be off the top, and the total commission is still allocated to me. So I'm going to choose outside referral. Note, we do not use the inside referral button. If you have a referral to another agent in our office, please do not use inside referral. Just add them as another agent to the transaction the same way I added Gabby. just go ahead and do that and calculate the commission and type it in. So I'm going to do outside referral here. And let's say this is to, I would need to put their percentage here. And then I do need the tax ID information. So theoretically, this is how you would do it. And then click add. Okay, I'm not going to end up adding this because I don't have tax ID info to put in here, but this is how you would process an outside referral. All right, so I still need to reduce my commission. I'm going to actually come here and calculate it as 0.5 to reduce it, that what I gave to Blanca, and then I'm going to put this at 1 unit. The units and the total commission have to balance out. If they don't, you'll have an error message here telling you what's wrong. And then you need to come back here and make sure that numbers are all correct for you and whoever else is on the transaction. All right, and then in the top right corner, there's a summary here. And then I can submit. And then there's this pop-up. You can donate at this step to KW Cares or KW Kids Can. So these are our charities through KW. KW Cares helps with natural disasters, other disasters that are unforeseen. They not only help out KW agent families, but also others. KWKC is helping the next generation of leaders and entrepreneurs feel empowered to learn about being an entrepreneur, real estate, their goals, even if their goals aren't real estate related. Skip Danielle's donation if you want to skip. Skip Blanca's donation, and then you can submit. All right, so that is how to do a transaction in